Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Global Online Meetup. I am Divya Mohan, and I'm a senior technical evangelist at SUSE. So, today's Global Online Meetup is going to be about Epinio, which we shall get into in a bit. But before we go ahead, I would like to remind everyone, wherever you're tuning in from, whether it's LinkedIn, Twitch, um, X, which was formerly Twitter, or even on our YouTube channel. We are here for learning, and we are here to share knowledge with you folks, and in the hopes that you understand our project better and you learn something new. With that spirit in mind, I would request that you know we understand that you will have questions, but please make sure you leave them on the chat, or the comments for the YouTube live or the LinkedIn live or the Twitch stream. We will be getting to them through the course of the presentation, and as and when they pop up. The second thing is, while you're asking these questions, or while you're interacting with other folks on the same live, we'd request that you be courteous and decent, so that you are keeping true to the spirit of learning and knowledge sharing. That is why we're here as a community. um so yeah, I mean, that was just a basic housekeeping here before we start off with the global online meetup. And we're here today to learn about Epinio, and to understand more about the project. And I have with me two engineers who work on the project, um, Enrico and Andreas. Um, Hello, Enrico and Andreas. How are you doing today?
Hi, Divya. Hi, everyone. Good, thanks.
Hello.
All right, so they are going to be delving into the project, and I believe we have a demo coming up as well after the presentation is over. I'm told, I don't know how true it is, but yeah. So I will hand it over to them, and we can probably get started with the session.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, so welcome to this Epinio Global Meetup. And yeah, feel free to please ask any question in the chat. And if those are relevant, we can stop and talk about those and answer to the question. Otherwise, we can we'll still have time to answer to the question probably at the very end. So this is the agenda. And so we are going to start with a short introduction about the motivation that brought the project. And then we are going to transition to some details regarding the project itself, some of its features, essential components, and then at the end, we are going to end with the demo. So I'm expecting this to take more or less half an hour, maybe a little bit more. So at the end, we'll still have some time for question. So moving on, motivation. So in SUSE, one of the goals that we have is to give you the freedom to innovate everywhere. So, and we are in 2023, and going from code to URL is still challenging. And so let's say that you're a developer, you have your beautiful application running on your computer, and now you want to deploy it somewhere and go live. And you will probably have to open some tickets asking your infrastructure team to provision some virtual machines for you, some databases, set up the CI, and do some voodoo magic and EDR. So let's say also that you are in a cool cloud native company. So let's add a bit of Kubernetes on top. I mean, Kubernetes is an awesome tool for operators, and it is the de facto standard regarding container orchestration. It's all API driven, and the ecosystem around is huge and can be extended in many ways, but it's not easy. And you don't want to add more cognitive load to your developers and make them learn about pods, services, ingresses, deployments, config maps, and whatever. So what you're probably looking for is a platform as a service, and Epinio is your pass on Kubernetes. So when Epinio started, the goal was to simplify application development workflow on Kubernetes and going from code to URL in just one push. And so the idea of having a service providing a way to quickly deploy applications to production is not new. The first occurrence of platform as a service seems to be dated back to 2006, and there is a high demand from our customers for these services. So quoting a famous tweet from Kelsey Hightower, he says that I'm convinced the majority of people managing infrastructure just want a pass. The only requirement, it has to be built by them. So I mean that means that many people are looking for an easy way to deploy applications, but also that paths are usually very opinionated. And since we want to give you the freedom to innovate everywhere, a traditional path doesn't seem to fit nicely into the picture. So what companies are looking for probably is not a pass, but an IDP, so an internal developer platform. And an internal developer platform is built by a platform team to build golden paths and enable developer self-service. And I'm quoting the internal developer platform.org website here. And I'm also quoting again Kelsey. As you can see, I'm a huge fan of him. And he says that Kubernetes is a platform for building platforms. So it's a better place to start, not the end game. So this is very true. But if you are a small company, then you should just go with the simplest solution, look for a path. You should not probably even run your own Kubernetes cluster. You don't want to bother too much with the infrastructure details, but you should focus on providing value to your customer. On the other side, very big companies such as Google, Netflix, Amazon, with basically unlimited resources, armies of SREs, DevOps, can invest time on building their own platform because they have the knowledge and the power to do that. But if you are one of the thousands of medium-sized companies with tens or hundreds of developers, you're probably sitting in the middle. And you're looking for a flexible solution that could leverage your infrastructure expertise without wasting too much time reinventing the wheel. And this is how we built Epinio. So it's a flexible solution to build your own path on Kubernetes. So we focused on having a great developer experience. So Epinio should have a short learning curve and should be easy to debug because we didn't want the developers to learn a new complex tool. And we wanted to have a single push command to deploy your application. So we focused basically on hiding all the Kubernetes complexities. And second main goal was the self-service provisioning. So we wanted to simplify the handoff between developers and operators. So basically, tickets should not be required, and developers should be able to provision services by themselves. And also, we took care about the operators' experience. So operators are looking for stability and predictability because infrastructure evolved a lot over the past 3 decades. So we went through Linux bare metal machines to abstract resource definitions. And now everything can be updated via APIs. And this unlock a completely new level of automation. So basically, if you need a highly available load balancer, you're probably looking for an ingress. And if you need to provision some storage, you should have a look at persistent volumes, maybe having a look at Longhorn. Or if you need to enforce some policies within your cluster, maybe you can have a look at KubeWarden, for example. And because of the many standardized APIs that Kubernetes offers, it became the de facto standard for managing infrastructure. So now let's have a quick look at Epinio. So it's built on standard and well-known technologies from CNCF, and every piece can be customized to your needs. It can be installed as a Rancher application or via Helm, and it comes with batteries included. And by saying that, I mean it's shipped along with everything it needs by default. So its Chart will install some of its dependencies. And for example, it will use Min.io as S3 compatible storage and an internal Docker registry where to upload the built images. And for example, if you don't want to use Min.io, you can plug in a different storage. And we provide the S3 gateway as an option, or you could leverage an external provider such as AWS. And you just need to provide the needed configuration. Regarding AWS, if you're running your cluster on EKS, for example, then you could even leverage AIM authentication. so you don't even need to worry about credentials. And in the same fashion, you can use your own registry. So you will have full control on where to upload your images. And you can use, obviously, and you use any Docker compatible registry, such as also ECR or Artifactory, for example. So this is how the deployment works. So basically we have the source code that will be pushed on the S3 storage. And this code will run through a job that will use cloud native build packs for the build. And build packs provide a modular way to go from source code to container images. So they will auto-detect the programming language, perform the build, package the image, and push it to the registry. And after the building phase, Epinio will take care of the deployment using Helm and the specified app chart. And usually you will have your code versioned somewhere. So you can also fetch your code, for example, from GitHub, GitLab, or any Git server. Or if you already have a build pipeline that you still want to use, you could also specify the container image. So you don't have to build it again or change your workflows, basically. Oops, sorry, too fast. So we say that Epinio will take care of the deployment, and it will deploy the application using an app chart. And we packaged a standard app chart in Epinio that will create everything your application needs to run in your cluster in a minimal but resilient way. So it will create a deployment to scale your pods, an ingress and a service used to reach your application from the outside. And if it doesn't fit your needs, you can still build your own chart and use it. And also during the push, you can specify some values to tweak your chart and customize your deployments. So usually an application needs some sort of databases, or an external service to run properly. And as we already covered, self-service provisioning of resources is one of the core features of an IDP. So within Epinio, these are called services. And by default, we provide a service catalog with some of the most used applications, such as Postgres, MySQL, Redis, MongoDB, or Rabbit. And this catalog can be extended by the operators because these custom resources are just using Helm charts under the hood. So they can define other charts, let the developers provision what they want. They can also define a range of values that developers can use to adapt the chart to their needs. And for example, they define a Postgres for development purpose with a limited set of values. And on the other hand, having a production DB with fixed values, for example. And we also try to use Crossplane to deploy resources, and it worked fine. So for those who are not aware of Crossplane, it is another CNCF project, and it's a framework to build custom control planes. And basically, it offers different providers that you can use. You can define some resources, and Crossplane will take care of provisioning them. For example, with the AWS provider, you can define a new RDS instance and spin it up into your account. So it's a pretty nice tool to play with Epinio. And having a flexible authentication system was another goal that we achieved with Epinio. So at the beginning, we started with a simple basic authentication approach using Kubernetes secrets, and we expanded it with DEX. And DEX is another CNCF project, and it's an OpenID Connect provider. And you can configure DEX to use any of its supported connectors to log in with your favorite single sign-on platform. For example, you can use it with AWS and SAML, or Google accounts, GitHub, LDAP, many more. So at the moment, Epinio has a simple authorization system with 2 roles, and an Epinio user basically can be a regular user or an administrator. So when logged in as an admin, you will be able to perform any operation, and while a regular user will be restricted to its namespace. So you won't be able to manage or even see applications running on other namespaces that were maybe created by other users and teams. So this gives Epinio a light multi-tenancy capability that isolates departments, providing them safer environments. I would also like to say that if you're using the single sign-on option to log in, and you can use groups to map users to different roles. And for example, you could define on your LDAP a group with admin permission and other groups as regular user. So in the previous slides, I mostly covered aspects targeting the operators and the organization, but in the end, the end user of Epinio is still the developer. So we already say that you should not worry about knowing Kubernetes, and that is a really challenging tool, or learning a new complex tool. So we provide a cross-platform command line interface that can be used to interact with the Epinio APIs. And we also have a web UI that can be used to deploy and manage your applications with just few clicks. And this is what we are going to see just in a moment. Developer feature, we already covered the Epinio push command and the deployment. And we also covered the service catalog for the self-service provisioning. And now we always hope that everything goes right, but I mean, the developer will still need some tools to check that its application is running properly or to debug it. So now these are the tools that we are offering to the developers. And for example, with an Epinio app logs, you can access the application logs and filtering them. And if it's not enough and you need to check your running container, you can use an exec and you will be able to open an interactive shell into it. And also you can use the port forward command to open a tunnel and attach, for example, a remote debugger for even a deeper investigation. And it's worth to mention that the port forward command is also available for services. And basically, so you can use any local tools on your machine to interact with running services. So coming next, not really coming next, because the three features that I'm highlighting here for the V110 were released just yesterday, because yesterday we released the 1.10.0 version of Epinio. And so I'm happy to say that we have now support for private Git repositories. And we also added support to private Helm repositories and registries regarding, for example, services. And we added finally also the support, the possibility to export the application chart images to external OCI registries. And as I said before, at the moment we are just having a very basic authorization system, but for the next release, we are planning to work on a much more flexible authorization system with the chance and possibility to build your own custom roles with specific actions and permissions. And so these are some contacts if you want to reach us. So you can reach us on the Epinio channel in the Rancher users Slack space that is on slack.rancher.io. And you can obviously start us on GitHub. So the main repository is on epinio/epinio. And the website is on the epinio.io URL. And then I think that I covered all the aspects, so it's time for a demo.
Enrico, before we go ahead,
Sure.
there's a question. When you were covering the prerequisites, right? There was not the prerequisites actually. The question was around the prerequisites for actually, getting an Epinio installed to work seamlessly on your cluster. What are the prerequisites? Could you sort of like detail? I know that you mentioned that these are the components that we've integrated, but are there any prerequisites in addition to a Kubernetes cluster that we need so that the Epinio project actually functions seamlessly?
So yeah, if there are some requirements that we have allowed, those are in the docs.epinio.io documentation website, basically. Epinio on its own, it's very lightweight, but still
Okay.
it relies on different projects and infrastructure. For example, Min.io can be kind of resource extensive, so we are suggesting at least the minimum that Min.io requires. But for example, if you are using an external S3 storage provider, that requirements are getting lower. So Usually, I guess 2 or 4 GB RAM and 2 CPU cores are fine enough. So yeah, should be fairly low. I'm usually running locally on a K3s cluster. So
Okay. Yeah. And are there any other components that need to be installed, like any other supporting projects or any other, components, or does just pulling the binary actually pre-install everything on your cluster, like whatever is required? Is there any other prerequisite except the RAM requirement and the CPU requirement?
the only requirements that we have at the moment is having Cert Manager installed, and that's because
Ah,
we are using HTTPS requests and certificates for the cluster, for the pin itself, and also for the workloads and the application. So that's one of the requirements. It's probably going to be away in the next releases because we have a feature request for this because there are some customers that are using sign already that they have or their own certificate they want to use. So
okay. Yeah. That answers my question. Thank you.
very welcome. So I can try to go with the demo if you. Let's see.
Yep.
Yeah, so I hope you should see my terminal. And now I'm sharing my shell. So I'm going to use the Epinio CLI, but then I will show you also the web UI. So for those who are more familiar with the UI, don't be scared. But as you will see soon, Epinio is very, very easy to play with. So now I have a local landing Epinio. So I'm just going to log in with the Epinio login command. I'm going to specify the user and the URL of my Epinio cluster. I will be prompt for the password, that it's password actually for the default user. And I'm gonna trust the self-signed certificate in this case. And so yeah, seems to be I can reach my cluster fine, and I can double check what settings I'm using with the Epinio settings show command, and we can see some details regarding, for example, the current namespace that I'm targeting. That's it, the workspace, the default one, and that I'm logged in as the admin user. So for example, if we want to check the available namespace, I can just do an Epinio namespace list. And as you can see, the only namespace at the moment available is the workspace one. So for example, we can try to create a new namespace. So let's try to Epinio namespace, create pool. And here we are. Now we have the Epinio. Now we have also the full namespace available. Now let's try to log in with the Epinio user. Epinio login with the Epinio user. Yep. And let's use the same password again, plus the certificate. And now I'm logged in as you can see, as the Epinio user. Now, if I want to target the full namespace, so I basically just want to switch to this namespace. As you can see, I will not be able to do that because the namespace was created by an administrator, not by me. And so I don't have basically permission to get into it. So let me log in again as the admin. And I can also use the --trust CA flag to basically automatically trust the self-signed certificate. And now I'm logged in back as the admin. So now let's go to the interesting part, and let me try to push an application. So I am in my directory. I have a very, very simple Golang application. Not sure how familiar you are with Go, but basically it's just an application that is going to print some logs and nothing more, just an hello page as the index. So let me Epinio app push, and we have to give it a name. So let's just name it sample, and here we are. So without any other flags, Epinio will try to get the current directory and just push everything into Epinio. And now we are going to see some of the logs coming from the staging job. So we can see that now we are basically fetching the code from the S3, and then we are going to use these sources, and so Buildpacks will try to understand which was the language that needs to be built. So he understood that was a Go application, and now we start the build process. So Buildpacks are now executing the build, and build was successful, and now they are creating the image and pushing it to the registry, and everything is done. And now Epinio is taking care of the deployment. And so now it's using basically Helm chart and the standard app chart to deploy the application. And here we are. So that, let me try to see. So yes, I have to trust the self-signed, and here we are. So as you can see, the application is up and running, and we can check some information with an Epinio app show and then the app name. You can even tab to get auto completion, so that is the convenient. And with the app show, we can get some of the details regarding the application. So as you can see, we can add the who deployed the application, the instances available, the environment variables that users set, or the values that were used to deploy the application, and stuff like that. So let's try to debug it. So I'm going to use the Epinio app logs with the also -- follow command, follow flag. So I can take the logs, and here are the logs coming from the application. So if I'm going to curl the sample application, we can see that this is the page, and the log was written out. And so that works fine. And let's try also to use, for example, the app exec command, still on the sample app. Oh. And now here we are inside the container, and here you can do whatever you want. So for example, we can list the current directory. We can, I don't know, check what is running. As we can see, the Golang sample app is running inside the container. And so let me get out from here, and then we can try to, let's try also the port forward command. So we can check so let's say sample, and then we need to give it a port. So basically now I open a local tunnel that is going to listen from the 8080 port and will be forwarded to the 8080 port of the running application. And then I can try this curling again, but now I can curl it from the localhost. And as you can see, I have received back the HTML page with and here the port forward command, received the actual connection. So let me close this, and let's try also a couple of more things. So you can obviously scale your application in an easy way. So you can update your app with the Epinio app update, and you can update, for example, the number of instances with instances, for example, 3. And also we can set some environment variables. Let's try, for example, to setting the foobar application, environment variable, because it's what I'm actually checking in the logs. So now the application is being updated. And if we do an Epinio show sample again, we can see that now, let's maybe zoom out a bit just to show you a nicer table. We can see that we have now 3 instances, and we have set the foobar environment variable. So that's available here. And we can see app logs again, and let me curl again. And as you can see, the environment variable is now available. So that was some of the basics for the app management, let's say. And I'm going to show you also another resource that Epinio offers, that are the configurations. So configurations are kind of secrets that can be shared among different applications. And for example, we can create an Epinio configuration with obviously the Epinio configuration command, and the create. Let's give it a name like myconf, and we need to provide some key values arguments. So let's say my secret and secret value. Okay, this is going to create a configuration. Here is the access path where these secrets will be available on the application container. And so we can now bind this configuration bind my configuration to the sample app, and what it's going to do, it's going obviously to bind this configuration to my sample app, and after this we can exec again into the container to check that Epinio app exec sample, and from here we can check that in the that path the configuration is now available. So that can be used to share different secrets among different applications, for example, I don't know, passwords or whatever. And so I can cut this if you want, but you should trust me. Yes, here we are with the secret value, so that's fine. Let me exit from here. Okay, so yeah, I mean, the Go sample application was pretty easy to have to deploy and to debug. So let's try with something a bit more complex. So I'm now going to push a more complex application. I'm pushing a WordPress application. So I'm gonna give it the WordPress name. I'm going to fetch the source from GitHub, so from the example WordPress application. And I'm now defining some environment variable that will be used during the build pack build. So the BP prefix is commonly used by build packs to fetch environment variables that can be used to tweak the building phase. So for example, here I'm saying to build pack to use Nginx as PHP server, the PHP version, or the web directory containing the actual source code. So now Epinio was fetching the code from GitHub, and let me scroll a bit down. I've lost, okay, there was a lot of logs, a lot of files. Let me just push enter. Oh, okay, it was already done. It was very quick. So the WordPress application was built, then was pushed, and then was deployed. So let's see how it looks. Let's trust the certificate, and we got an error, obviously, because I mean, it's a WordPress application, so we need to provide obviously a database. And in our case, we can try to bind MySQL database, for example. So let's have a look at the catalog. And the catalog will show you the available services in the Epinio cluster. And for example, this is the default one. So we can deploy, for example, a Redis, Rabbit, or these other services. I can get some information regarding those, small description. And I'm now going to create a MySQL. So I'm just going to Epinio service create, and let's create a MySQL dev and call it MyDB, for example. So create MySQL dev, MyDB, yep. And that was very fast and quick, but it's just because I have not used the --wait flag. And so the creation of the service is asynchronous, because a service, since it's a database or should usually it's a long-running task. We are doing this on background. So this is not something that you want to wait on your clip. Basically, you don't want to interrupt anything. And so you can check the status of the service with the show command. So Epinio service show with the service name. And as you can see, the status is not ready yet. And we can also see some information regarding, for example, internal routes and who is actually using this database at the moment. Anyone. So let's try again. So yes, now it's deployed. So we can bind it. You can actually bind it even if it's not deployed yet. So let's do an Epinio service bind, and let's bind the MyDB to the WordPress application. And this will create, this will mount the configurations created by the, so the secrets created by the service to the application. And so if we now do a configurations list, you can see that we have two configurations. One was of custom type, so we created this manually, and this was the one generated by the service. So it's coming from a service, it's this service, and it's now also bound to the WordPress application. And we can now, let me show you this configuration, just to show you what is this about. And so as you can see, basically it's containing the same password that were generated from the service. And now this path is available on the app container. So now we can push again the WordPress application, and I'm defining here also the DB host and the service name, and those environment variables will be used by the WordPress application to actually bind and use the proper host with the proper username, password, and whatever that were generated by the service, basically. So this is very fast and quick because of some caching regarding the images and such. So it's already deploying the application. Let's see, and seems to be ready. So let me refresh it again, and finger crossed, yes. So as you can see now, our WordPress application is up and running, and it's ready to be configured and used. So that was some of the basics from the CLI, and I'm going to show you now the web UI. So let me go to sorry, just let me just get the correct URL, so that's easier. Yep, not really. Almost there. And here we are. So this is the login page. So we can log in with any host provider that can be configured over Dex. But I'm going to use and log in as the admin and password user. So let me log in with the admin password. And here we are. So this is the, let's say, the dashboard page where we can get an overview from Epinio. So we can check the available namespaces, for example, and the available application and the available services. So if we go to the namespaces, we can check that there is the full and workspace application namespace. And on the application side, we can see that we have let me know if if I need to zoom a bit, should be okay, I guess. So we have the sample and WordPress application running, and we can, for example, open the application to get some details from it. So we can see the number of instances and any configuration or service bound to this application, some details regarding the origin, for example, the builder image used to build the app. And we also have here the services tab with the catalog, with all the available services that you can deploy, and also the running instances that of the already deployed services. And the advanced part, we got the configuration, and also we have the application chart that can be customized to actually customize your application deployment. Let me try to show you how to deploy an application from the UI. So you just need to go from the application tab, just click create. You have to select the right source type. So for example, you can use a local folder, own archive, or Git provider. Let's try with Git. And we can use the Epinio, no, sorry, not the GitHub. So we can use the Epinio organization, and we look for the available repository. Let me try to get some of the examples that we have. As you can see, we have different samples for different languages that can be a guide for you. And so let's try to deploy the 12-factor app. And you can select the branch, and you can select the commit. So you click next. You can give it a name. So let's call it just 12-factor application, 12-factor. The instances, you can add different routes if you want, or other application variables that can be used to tweak the deployment. And you can also obviously add the environment variables and everything you need. You can select some configuration services to bind to this app if you want, and you click done, and then Epinio will take care of the deployment. So now the application was created, the code from Git was fetched, and now the build is in progress. So we can see here the logs coming from build. So it's fetching some of the dependencies. So we can see, for example, I don't know, Sinatra, I don't know, Canvas, Ruby app. So yeah, gems. And now, yes, we are exporting the image and almost there. So
Enrico, I had a question
sure.
with regards to deployment of the app specifically. Can we sort of build images um, from a docker file instead of the source? Is that possible with Epinio currently?
Not with Dockerfile, there is an open issue regarding this because we are waiting it's a kind of feature request from the upstream
Okay.
feedbacks workflow, let's say. But still, if you have a Dockerfile that you want to use, probably you can set up your CI to build the container image and use directly that at the moment. But it's something that we have in roadmap.
Okay. And when can we see, like, Rancher extensions has been all the rage this year. Last KubeCon, we got a lot of questions around extensions. When can we see Epinio there? Because after this meetup, I'm sure at the next KubeCon that I'm attending, this is the question that I'm going to get. So I'm just preempting and asking right now so that I can answer it there.
I think it should be there, but maybe in experimental mode or whatever, but very soon.
Okay, that sounds great. Another question that came our way is that can we export what Epinio deploys to a fleet configuration file? Currently, is it possible?
Not a fleet configuration file probably, but within the last version, we are supporting, since we are supporting the export of the to external OCI registries of the image and the mchart used to the deployment, that's a much easier integration within Fleet. So
Okay.
that was one of the main reasons because of that feature.
Okay. And is there like a dependency on the kind of you know basically can it run on ARM is one of the questions that actually came through. Is there a dependency, and is it possible to run on architectures other than the normal ones that are there?
Yeah, we have Epinio running on multiple architecture actually. I think that the problem is just regarding the build packs because
Okay.
if I'm not wrong, so the base builder that we are using is the Paketo Full Builder,
Yep.
and yeah, and I think that it's not available on ARM, so you should build your own a builder that is compatible with ARM. But on the Epinio
Ah.
perspective, that's fine. So that's the only
Ah.
caveat.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you. I think these were all the questions that we had for the time being.
So just closing the demo because that was the last step. So the build was done. I can click done, and here we are. So the application is up and running, and I can click on the link to go to the application. As you can see, it's there available. And you can see also some metrics regarding the resources that is consuming the app and the all the details regarding the origin of it. And here we are. So that was the last step for me. So the QR code are for the quick start. So if you want to play with Epinio, just do it, please. And thank you. Also, if you have any further questions, please reach us on the Slack channel. We are try to be pretty reactive. Or if you have any question or issues that you encounter trying out Epinio, just open an issue. Feel free to ask anything, basically.
So I think Ram Iyengar, who's joined from Ram on YouTube, has said that you're right about build packs not supporting ARM. The support is coming soon, so fingers crossed on that. Um, he has also asked, can we see a canine's view of the deployment?
Yeah. So if this asks the question, we can see the pods running of the sample application. For example, the WordPress, and this is the service. So I don't know, we can get to the deployment part, and as you can see, there will be the deployments that will take care of the application. You will also end up with having the ingress for this application and some secrets containing some details internal regarding the application. Those are also some of we have also some custom resources used to map the services and the applications and the app charts, for example. So if you want to see some details of it, feel free to ask anybody.
I hope that answered your question, Ram. And um, I will wait for a couple of more minutes before we close out because I don't see
Sure.
any further questions. But if there are any questions after you view this recording later on YouTube or elsewhere, I'm just gonna post the links to the Slack channel as well as the docs for Epinio. Our Rancher user Slack channel is slack.rancher.io. You can get yourself an invite, and all of the projects under Rancher, including Epinio, are like the engineering teams are on there, and you can, you know, reach out and ask your questions or get clarifications or whatever. And of course, we wouldn't be where we are without the docs. I mean, the code is important, but the docs are too. So The docs are hosted on docs.epinio.io. The links are there, and feel free to use them, and let us know if uh, if you want further content to be added there. We are actively working on that part of it as well. But yeah, thank you so much, Enrico and Andreas, for being on and for enlightening us about the project. It's been really insightful. I learned a lot. So
Thanks to you, Divya, for hosting us.
yes, and it was a brilliant session. Thank you so much. Since there aren't any questions, I think we can close out now, and I guess we'll see the community around in the next global online meetup or masterclass. Have a good eve, everyone, or good day,
Thank you.
as as is appropriate. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.